Hi, this is Savannah, and welcome to my ZBrush tutorial on how to texture in PolyPaint. In this tutorial, we'll be discussing how to embed basic color and material into your 3D model, how to use the brushes along with alphas, textures, and the stroke to detailing and coloring your model, and also to be setting up for the texture painting tutorial. So let's begin. As you can see, I already have a model in edit mode loaded onto the canvas. The thing to also note is the model or the subtool that I'm going to be embedding the color and material should be on the lowest subdivision when you're doing the base color and the initial material. Also should have MRGB on and turned up all the way to 100. MRGB stands for material and color. RGB is just color, and M is material. The other thing you may notice is that I have a fill object button on my interface. I was able to apply that to my interface by hitting on the Enable Customize in the Preferences menu, going to my Color menu, clicking on and holding the keys Command or Control and Alt or Option at the same time, and clicking on the button I want and dragging and dropping it onto my interface. Usually I like to have this button on my interface when I'm ready to begin texturing or coloring my model for easier access. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to select the material. That you want to use on your model. And then we're also going to select the color. Once we have a color that we like, simply hit the Fill Object button. Now that material is embedded and with the color into your 3D model. Also, going to select just the eyes, hit the RGB, turn your color to white, and then hit Fill Object. The reason why I did this is for the next tutorial on texture painting. This will make it easier to see where the eyes are when they're not the same color as the skin. Okay. Go ahead and select our corset and turn off some of the subtools to better see the subtool, and hit the Actual button. The Actual button reverts your canvas into the actual size of your document. Although it's not good to render while in actual mode, because it will make your textures and details a bit bitmap. Want to be an AA half if you're rendering out your model. Actual works really well for small detailing on your 3D object. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to my brush menu and click on a brush that was created by Ryan from ZBrush Central for all of us to use free. Alpha disappeared. There it is. I'm going to go ahead and draw out a seam along the top and bottom of my corset. Ryan has quite a few different styles of seams. You can see some of them on the side already drawn onto my model. And I believe he also has a tutorial on how to create your own seam type brushes. Once we have that and it looks a little bit more real, I'm going to go ahead, select my standard brush, a material that I made, the drag rectangle stroke in your stroke menu. I'm going to click on my light box and have the alpha selected. As you can see, I have a lot of different alphas saved from ZBrush Central and the main Pixelogic site. In the download section, the alphas and textures and materials. I'm going to go ahead and click on my favorite one. You can get or download and be able to open your alphas from Lightbox. By saving them into your Z materials or Z alpha or ZBrushes folders found within your ZBrush program. As you can see, once I clicked on that alpha, it created a texture. In order to change that to alpha, click on the texture button, open the texture window, and click on Make Alpha. As you can see, now we have an alpha. I'm going to turn off the texture. Although you can use other textures, including your own, in creating some really unique texture painting that only textures within that alpha. So I'm going to click, turn down that, and select a more yellow color. A little more whiter. I'm going to go ahead and drag out a few instances of the alpha, my material and color. I'm also going to go to the brush menu and the auto masking subpalette and click on backface. In order to stop it from coloring on the back side of your model. And I'm also going to click on a brush that I made. Turn down the draw size. That I can create a unique design. I'm also going to select my inflate button, and as you can see, I've changed the stroke to the color spray or colorized spray, and using the Alpha 08, change some of the parameters within the modify subpalette of your Alpha menu to make a unique brush. I'm going to use this brush quickly to make a little bit of glitter on my corset. Okay. As you can see, there's some areas that have a lot of grouping of glitter on the corset that you may not want or wish to erase. And maybe there's some areas that you'd rather not have on it. In order to do that, I'm going to go back to my standard brush, turn on the dot strokes, turn off the alpha, turn up the mRGB, turn off the Z add, and click on the original material that was used for the corset and select the original color. Now when I draw, as you can see, it's erasing some of that glitter and putting the original color back onto the model. Also use that for an area that you don't like the material or color. But as you can see, it leaves back behind the detailing that was left from the brush having Z add on. Simply take your smooth brush. I usually use the smooth crease brush. And erase or smooth out the details that were left behind. Also go up and down in geometry slightly. Sometimes it's hard to get out that detail brush on a high level, and you don't really want to damage your mesh too much. As you can see, now it's disappeared. The other thing that I'm going to do is click on a brush that I had changed. It came with ZBrush, called the Fur Pen Brush. change some of the parameters within the brush menu to make it into a usable brush, in the sense that this brush was made mainly for painting or drawing with color, into a usable detail brush with the Z add turned on. To create a boning-like design, onto my corset. For this brush, I also have the stroke lazy mouse turned on. That makes it so that it's easy, as you can see the long red line coming out from the cursor, to drag in more precise detail. And unhide some of the tools that we had hid earlier. Okay, and then we're also going to go to the subtool menu and click on All Low. Might as well hide all the rest of her subtools by clicking on the eye icon in your subtool menu, or subpalette in your tool menu. We're going to go to the actual mode. I'm going to drag down and go ahead and position her where we're going to want to be able to texture paint on the front of her face. Then I'm going to go to the document menu. The bottom of the document menu is a subpalette called Z App Link Properties. This is a plugin within ZBrush to creating character sheets for Photoshop and other coloring or drawing programs. And also save certain views. You have a right and 2 slots for a custom view. Once you have your model within the lines around your canvas, which outside of these lines you cannot draw, you want your model to be within those lines as much as possible for texture painting later. Once you have the view set, go ahead and click on Front. Now, as you can see, on the front and the back, 2 orange lights came up along each side of the button. That means that they have a set view within each of those buttons. You click on the back after making your front, as you can see, it turns your model to the back, and vice versa with the front. These views will not save with your document, your tool, or your project file. You need to save the views as a file on your computer, wherever you'd like, in which once you have your model and the subtool and preferably the actual size of the canvas selected, you can load in your views for the ZApp link properties. Also, if you don't want click on the top, if you don't want one of the buttons, but you'd like the other, to stay, click on the Clear To button and click on the button that you wish to remove. If you want to remove all of them and start over again, hit the Clear All button and a pop-up will come up asking you to clear all views. You hit Clear. Well, that's it for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed. Happy ZBrushing!